Atlantic here with a ranked replay cast on Io, this time featuring Phil H, 1999, Dennis, Drop Pizza, Hexapus, and Adorfield. We have Scavengers, Scientists, Nomads, and Elites. This is on Io, so we could see some Elites going on here, especially if you found near some of these basalt ice patches. You also see a Scientist over here by these basalt ice patches. Where's all the carbon? There are nukes, so going for this high-low carbon actually might not be that great of an idea, so probably scratch Scientists off the list. There's not really that high silicon, so if you go for Nomads, you're definitely going to have to rely on these basalt lakes. I'm definitely seeing Scientist fans coming in here, especially like over here. This is a great Scientist spot. You even have some carbon nearby and aluminum, so I would be taking that. In a little bit, the geotherms are spread out around, so we are going to have a scavenger. This scavenger is going to need to immediately goon this high tile as fast as possible and immediately get the upgrade to HQ2 thanks to founding on that aluminum. Hexapus takes that Scientist spot that I was pointing out. Phil is going for a Nomad, founds like so needs to buy up some electronics first with the amount of money that Phil has. I'm wondering if Phil has actually ever used a Nomad before, and they're going for some metal mines. Metal's not that high, so I'm thinking they don't necessarily know what they're doing. Adorfield going for a very long distance scavenger on one low carbon, going to use that core sample and get another low, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Going into some glass. So that's Phil going for carbon. Yeah, Phil doesn't doing. But that is another option that Dennis Drop Pizza could use to make this start a little bit better, is core sample one of these two tiles. Dennis is going into early ion collectors. It's quite good. As we can see, these ion collectors are making 73 a second with the JCC bonus, and that's the best money you can make other than straight up carbon. I suppose also HQ2 going into some glass built on oxide ice, so getting free oxygen. Just need to buy the silicon off the market, which there's nobody producing silicon, so that price is going to rise rather rapidly. Extra Pizza going into a HQ2 patent lab. Quite the interesting choice. Adorfield stuck on HQ1. Only has the 2 lows of carbon, which isn't really enough for a scavenger. Doesn't have enough money to keep the glass kilns online. It doesn't have any silicon income. Phil also, again, unfortunately, just not knowing what to do with Nomad. Definitely want to either claim this triangle of silicon. You need to buy up transparent aluminum for Dennis Drop.
A scavenger HQ
early rush for transparent aluminum. This means that their upgrades are going to be ridiculously cheap.
A scavenger HQ has been upgraded.
Very cheap, and going immediately for superconductor. But anyway, back to the Nomads. You do want to buy up your electronics when you found it, because as you can see, Phil just needs another 13k to upgrade and only hit 12. That's going to take a long time. Building a basalt platform, so that's finally going to get some silicon coming in, but you know, these needed to be basalt platforms, or they need silicon, and you bring in some aluminum. Back when it was expensive, buy up the electronics when it was cheap. Dennis Drop Pizza, already HQ4 off of this early transparent aluminum page, moving into some power, but that's going to be frozen out by Hexapus. So Dennis Drop Pizza lapping everybody this game so far.
Scientific HQ
Quadruple
has been
carbon.
upgraded.
That's a little bit overkill, unless of course you're trying to blaze through the upgrades so you can make money and go for majority buys, which that's looking like Denis Drop Pizza's plan. They're just taking a detour by making power, since power is so expensive. They should be able to pay through all their debt very rapidly. Going for some more ion collectors, quite good. Hexapus HQ3, also going for some power, so going to be some competition on the power. Going into some water processors, needs to rotate out of these glass kilns and is going to do so. Maybe put down another water processor or 2 fuel ion collectors, that'd be great. Look at that fuel price, 144 by itself. Denis Drop Pizza making so much money from these fuels, making so much money from these nuclear plants. Look at that. All that debt, all gone, completely disappearing. Going to be earning 1.6k per second, 20k in the bank. This transparent aluminum build working out quite well for Denis. A nuke finally comes down on Denis's elemental quarry, but I think it's too little, too late. That was by Phil with the spy. Denis is going for a space elevator. How much did that space elevator cost? Very, very little. 38k, 48k, something like that. Thanks to just that aluminum and that carbon. Carbon's going to be a little bit rough, but still getting 7.2 a second, so not able to get out of that carbon if needed. Adorfield finally HQ3. Fill HQ2, moving into some fuel. And get those basalt reactors down, but it's too little, too late. Slant drilling for Denis, just trying to keep this carbon alive longer, making nukes harder thing to do. Has 6 claims, needs to put those claims down. Other than
the black market is online.
Space elevators, but you know, I mean, might as well go for space elevators first if they're that cheap. Only 50k. Have the raw resources. Just want Denis to build some more production. Going into chems is interesting because chems are very not that good. Denis is back in debt, but with 2 space elevators, let's actually check these launches here. 30k launches for chems, that's why he's going into chems. Just wants to keep those chems online. Doesn't have enough money to buy fuel, which is interesting, because he has plenty of fuel, so just means that doesn't have auto supplies turned on. These space elevators are going to be quite profitable for Denis. Hexapus over here, I think, actually lagging behind a little bit, just not able to upgrade fast enough. Got into these water processors a little bit late. Adorfield also HQ3, beating Hexapus to HQ4 thanks to the really low carbon price that Denis Drop Pizza is keeping. Also, Adorfield finally getting a triple of low, so has decent carbon income, 5.25 a second. Hexapus HQ4 as well. More nukes on Denis Drop Pizza, but Denis Drop Pizza does have slant drilling, so was planning ahead for that.
Optimization center is ready.
Going for liquid batteries. Probably thinking about going into oxygen soon. These space elevators are hidden as optimization centers, and it doesn't look like anybody thought to take a look and make sure that they aren't anything other than optimization centers. So Denis Drop Pizza, lots of money, lots of income potential.
Let's get our science on.
A little bit of a debt problem, but still launching 26, 24k launches. Those space elevators have all paid for themselves. Be nice if the Offworld prices were a little bit better, but you can't have everything. Hexapus attacking the space elevator. Might know it's a space elevator, maybe just deciding to attempt to attack a optimization center. Either way, Denis Drop Pizza does have enough to make the first majority buyout as soon as these launches come through. Going into water processors. more
Nomadic HQ has been upgraded.
goon squads being popped. Our nomad friend finally HQ4. Despite that pretty terrible start, Dennis is defending himself. That's completely unnecessary.
Successful elevator shipment.
There was a point where Dennis could have purchased into Hexapus and bought Hexapus before Hexapus would have been able to defend himself. But with this big of an advantage, Dennis is just going for that bait game. Needs to worry about debt a little bit. Definitely needs to go into food. Look at all that money, 525. I mean, didn't go up as much as I thought, 20 per second off of food. So swapping does have some food finally. That's good. Moving into synthetic meat. Doesn't have the money to buy water. So, a little bit of a problem. More attacks, this time from adorfield. Base elevator finally blown up, but that repair cost is going to be minuscule. Only cost Dennis 22 to put up, so 10k to repair. Energy shortage coming in for Hexapus. Interesting choice because does Hexapus actually have... This does not have a power surplus, so that's going to increase Hexapus' debt. Adorfield is HQ5 as well. Making some decent money off of fuel, water processors, once again not doing anything. Farms is where it's at. Fuel and farms, those are the best two markets at this point in time. What do the optimizations look like? Nothing for adorfield, very few for Hexapus, nothing for Phil, and then 2 for Dennis drop pizza in the chems. Dennis needs to swap what's being launched. Oxygen at 22k, carbon at 21k, those are the launches. Not worth launching chemicals at 13k. Second, especially as chemical price keeps on increasing. More food shortages, more breezes raining down on Dennis. Dennis losing the advantage that he had. Does have all their stock defended, but doesn't have the money anymore that they used to have. These breezes are doing good damage to Dennis, are increasing Dennis's debt. Does have some real optimization centers online, rebuilding these
Space elevator delivery.
space elevators. Hexapus increasing the price of power. Moving into some nuclear plants, maybe a little bit late. Probably want to do that, make that move before power comes online, but Hexapus trying to pay down some of his debt. Dennis Drop Pizza does need to get rid of this patent lab if not using it anymore, so it would be a good idea to switch out of that patent lab. Probably would have switched the patent lab out to an optimization sensor instead of building an optimization sensor over here at the colony, because this is 4 claims with the colony. The scavengers don't have very many claims to begin with. We can just sort of see that Dennis is struggling a little bit for claims, but all the claims that Dennis does have are making really good money right now. Fuel's expensive, carbon's expensive, water's expensive. Still launching chemicals, so only 7k launches. Definitely needs to pay attention to what Dennis is auto launching. Could be launching 22k, 21k oxygen instead, or 16k carbon. Instead, 12k chemicals. Hexapus HQ5 coming to make a game out of it. Dennis is paying off a lot of debt. Finally has some power online. That's from all these water processors. Adorfield has a decent amount of cash in hand, 300k. Adorfield might have just pulled in lead
The optimization center is online.
without any optimization center, so that's a little bit interesting here. Hexapus lagging behind, Adorfield, Phil lagging behind, Adorfield, Phil just struggling in debt over here. trying to pay off that debt while the power is high. Fortunately for Phil, Hexapus is continuing to hack power. And it does look like that is paying off Hexapus, as Hexapus is making the most power money, and otherwise it's just helping Phil struggling. Hexapus has just caught up to Adorfield in cash on hand, a large part because of this power, and of course thanks to the strong farms that Hexapus has online. These optimizations in food really paying off for Hexapus. Denis still launching the wrong things.
So much money.
That's about the last time I'll probably harp on that. Adorfield transitioning to more ion collectors. Water processors are losing money and auto off is not working. So definitely want to keep that auto off on. It looks like Adorfield disabled the auto off and just isn't paying attention. Phil's paid through all their debt, fully defended stock, has a big chunk of cash on hand, so this game has gotten a lot closer than it should have been if Denis Drop Pizza had been monitoring their off-worlds, space elevators, off-world launches, moving into solar panels just to chase this power for Denis. Not a lot of debt does have debt payment on auto, so that's where all the cash is going. Not a big fan of that button. Denis could have so much more money, and at this point, cash is more important than debt. You could be buying into Hexapus, who would be a great subsidiary, a scientist with optimizations.
Successful elevator shipment.
Oops, this time by Phil H on to Adorfield. Adorfield went very far for carbon. That is very far. I might have just went over here for that basalt because it could have some iron and uranium, and uranium's pretty high.
Our methods continue to improve.
As you can see, Hexapus is 100% of the way of the buy onto Adorfield, getting close to the buy on Denis.
Space elevator delivery. So much money.
Denis is going to start to buy into Hexapus, so will Hexapus be able to finish out the game? Denis' stock price has increased quite rapidly.
Prepare for pending market adjustments.
Still auto-paying debt, but has no debt to speak of. Finally swapping out some of those launches, but not actually launching launches that give the most profits. Adorfield 49-50% of the way of buy, but Hexapus does have the buy on Adorfield, or will very shortly, just buying into Adorfield. Just wants a little bit of the stock there. We do have some hacks going on. Denis is hacking down food, as that's only going Denis's debt. Denis is getting very close to the buy here, especially once Denis has paid through the debt, so this auto pay debt button isn't actually doing anything anymore. Well, no, it still is doing something because the debt's not increasing. Losing almost 1,000 per second. Definitely rather have that 1,000 per second in your wallet. Needs to move out of solar panels into something else. Hexapus does have the buy on Adorfield. Does take out Adorfield, picking up first subsidiary. Denis 50% of the way to Hexapus. Interesting why Hexapus decided to purchase Adorfield instead of Denis. Denis did have more shares than Adorfield did.
The black market is open for business.
But Adorfield is already making good money, 500, 600. Some EMPs onto Hexapus by Phil. Although to be honest, Phil probably doesn't want to get into a fight between Denis and Hexapus, other than maybe trying to get them to fight each other, which is probably already going to happen. Phil buying in. Denis, which at this point I think is a mistake unless you're trying to king make hexapus into the winner. In this case, Phil probably just wants to sit back and make as much cash as possible and then either steal a buy from Denis on hexapus or on Denis from hexapus, one of the two. That would be their best chance of winning. But as we can see,
Optimization routine
Denis is getting quite close to buying out hexapus and finishing out this game. 77% of the way there. Finally swapping the launches around. Still not launching the items with the most money though. 28k for the carbon, 19k for the fuel. Be interesting to see how much money Denis has actually made off
Successful elevator shipment. Profits rising.
those space elevators. Phil selling out of Denis after buying all the way in. Denis is 90% on hexapus. This game is going to finish quite soon, and that's why
The engineers have advanced
I think hexapus made a mistake by buying out adorfield instead of Denis, although hexapus still might not know about these space elevators. Doesn't know about the one space elevator, but it's only making 274 a second versus you can see these water processors are making far more money for Denis. Denis almost has the buy on hexapus, getting actually quite close. 78, 80%, but only 80% for hexapus on the buy, and unfortunately that appears to be the end of the replay. I'm going to assume that Denis finishes up the buy on Phil, but unfortunate that I had a replay that ended before the game ended. I do apologize for that. So let's take a look at the charts and graphs. At the end, we can see Denis did make $1 million off of these space elevators, but imagine how much more these space elevators could have been making if they were launching most profitable resources. But I did really enjoy that strategy from Denis. Go to HQ2, buy, research the patent for transparent aluminum, not care about the glass cost. We can see, look at the resource prices for aluminum. It was always very low. The highest it got was a spike over here to 100, but that didn't last very long. And then carbon also extremely low, so those upgrades very cheap. Not enough black market, I think, on Denis early. Take a look. Hexapus did attack Denis 10 times. Soul 2, Soul 2, Soul 5 for the E's. Soul 2, Soul 3, Soul 4. Okay, so these attacks were a little bit earlier. Black market wasn't super friendly as far as freezing out production, just the E's. But anyway, a rather interesting game. Interesting strategy that you can try out on IO sometime, getting that early patent lab and a early transparent aluminum. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, or leave a message in the comments. Feel authentic, signing out.